Their presentation today is titled Big Data, Insight into Action, Sports Case Studies. The experts will talk about how they are leveraging Verizon wireless technology and how the sports industry is utilizing that. And with that as a background, I'd like to turn it over to the moderator, Jeff Hazlett, CEO of the Hazlett Group, and we'll get started.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you all for coming. Let me introduce the panel, and then I'm going to kick it off with just a couple of comments just to set the tone for what we're going to talk about, because this isn't going to be your ordinary panel. We're going to have a little bit more fun, and whenever we're talking about big data, we're going to have to make it more, we just have to make it exciting. So to make it exciting, we got a great panel. First of all, let me introduce Stephanie Bauer-Marshall. She is the Director of Precision Market Insights at Verizon Wireless, a business segment that Ms. Marshall incubated and launched back in 2012. Not been an easy thing to do with the economy, but certainly with Verizon, the way that you guys have been doing has been great. The new business line focuses on providing brands with a variety of licensed and custom solutions powered by layering audience insights based on mobile engagement, location, and demographic info. And before launching Precision, Stephanie, you led, I know, Verizon's mobile marketing and ad group, where you launched the company's first mobile web ad programs, and through Precision, you're continuing to drive that mobile ad strategy and launch this new ad marketing products. Next to Stephanie is Scott Rubel. Scott joined Palace Sports and Entertainment back in 2012 as the Vice President of Information Technology, where he manages all aspects of PS&E's information technology services, supporting the Detroit Pistons, the Palace of Auburn Hills, DTE, Energy Music Theater, and the Meadowbrook Music Festival on top of that. So that's heavy sports right there, isn't it? Right there.
All entertainment.
Oh, people, come on. Some of this stuff is funny, and you don't even realize it yet. So let's just, all right, and next to Scott is John Turner. John serves as the VP and Director of Sponsorship, where he is the lead agency contact to over 50 clients for top billing agency in the U.S., overseeing a group of 6 and managing sponsorship billings of over $60 million annually. John provides clients an impression-based evaluation process to help align their goals with sponsorship opportunities. Some of John's sponsorships highlights include Verizon Wireless, official wireless partner of the NHL, PowerBar, Do Action Sports Tour Athlete of the Year, and the Verizon Cornerstone partner, New Meadowlands Stadium. So thanks, John, for joining us. And John's based out of New York City. Also next to him is Zahir Benjamin. Zahir is the Senior Director of Financial Planning for the Phoenix Suns. In his role, he is responsible for leading analytics and research efforts across all Suns business areas, including ticket sales and marketing, corporate sponsorships, and finance operations. And Zahir, you're an alumni here at MIT?
Yes, sir. Business school, class of 2003.
So this is not bad, pretty good. So in the introduction, I'm a former chief marketing officer at a Fortune 100 company, spent hundreds of millions of dollars a year in sports sponsorships, everything from the longest standing Olympic sponsorship since 1896 until I canceled it in Beijing. And then NASCAR, IndyCar, professional baseball, and a host of other things all at one given time. I want to talk about, and I'm going to throw up a few different slides to talk a little bit about, to set the tone for what some CMOs are starting to think about. And so what are the biggest challenges? I work with CMOs now around the world, and I went out and interviewed some 2,600 CMOs. And I looked in and said, what are the top things that you consider the biggest challenges when it comes to not just data, but overall facing marketers today? And they came back with 10 clear imperatives. So 10 areas of which they felt were the most important. And when we sat down and looked at those, we pulled the top 5, and these were the top 5 that we saw. That these were the most important. Let me see if I can get to it. That marketing, first of all, must be accountable. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in terms of the sponsorships and the way that Precision and others are doing this and being able to pull this out. That customers must be engaged. And it's interesting, there's some flyers up here that Verizon handed out, and I thought it was one of the most interesting things I saw on the flyer was the fact that during the blackout at the Super Bowl, it resulted in a very serious shift of people's attention. So while the players took a knee, everybody else in the stands, and I'm sure that this is the way it was at home as well, because I was one of those people, took out their mobile phone and went to gaming sites, and they went to news categories, which I thought was very interesting. So they were either checking to see what the odds were on the bets and changing their bets, or doing something along the lines. So engaging customers with conversations. The third was innovate to integrate online and offline, to make the online experience or the digital experience, and I would say the mobile experience, to be the same. The next was to be mobile, to be everywhere, and to make sure that you're relevant. As we're coming to find out, if you look at the mobile phone, this is the most personal device there is in the world, bar none. For those of you who have children, you know where your phone is more than you know where your children are, all right? When you lose your phone or you lose your children, you never pat yourself down to find out where they're at, but you lose your phone, you'll do that. And so this is becoming one of the most critical things, especially for marketers, as we look at how we reach our customers and the way we interact and how we capture, not change, capture, because we'll talk about that a little bit, about how sometimes venues want us to do certain things or the franchises want us to do certain things, but customers don't want to always do that. And last but not least, automate the science of marketing. And when it came down to it, there were two clear key imperatives for that. It was around the automation, around the use of big data, and around ROI. So when we look at future trends, we look at mobile as being the most critical, that marketers are sitting there saying mobile is the biggest thing. The problem is for most marketers today is their mobile strategy is, I have an iPhone app. So they don't yet have a full strategy that they can go to the CEO or to the rest of the C-suite to be able to say, this is what my strategy is. So it's up to us, those that are helping those marketers spend the money, come up with that strategy and deliver interesting, actionable items. And that gets to the next point around big data, insights, action. You know, I talked to the former CMO of Yahoo, who is now at Skype, and Elisa Steele. And she told me she was at Yahoo, she had 67 pages of dashboards to give her insight. That's too much insight. And so it has to be really, truly actionable insight, so be able to take the data, be able to do it. Community building, that is building the communities that we have, especially if you've got the franchises and the venues that these groups are talking about here today, to be able to have that. Constant cloud access, and then as some of us talked about at dinner last night, video. Video like we've never seen it, because that's where people want to be playing and seeing and watching and doing it just like in real life. So those are the key trends that we're seeing in this area and where we need to be able to focus. So I want to talk a little bit about this. And by the way, if you have questions, you can actually put in my Twitter account and just send them directly to me, or you can use the hashtag. I'll be monitoring as we go along. But I have some questions that I want to ask, or if you have a question, you want to raise it, just raise your hand. I'll try to do my best to see everybody. Just jump up and down and let's do that. So the first question, when we take a look at it, obviously analytics and data-driven decisions are really critical to what you are going to do, what I want to do, what brands want to do, and to the success of business in a very way. So let me ask you, John, first of all, because you're here representing a lot of clients. You know, you got $60 million that you're managing here for some of these sponsorships. It's
a blank check every year.
It's a blank check every year. You wish it were bigger, I'm sure. But your clients, I'm sure, are demanding greater and greater accountability associated with your sponsorship recommendations. So it's not so much just say, slap my name up on the side of the building. In what areas do you find the greatest application, and how would you best leverage a solution suite like, say, Precision?
Well, we sit in a little bit of a weird spot for a sponsorship agency being within a media agency. So, you know, we're competing or being judged against traditional media, which is very measurable. And I think a lot of the times people think sponsorship isn't as measurable, but I would argue that if it's anything, it's measurable. You can have direct action, you have direct interaction with your customers, with the fans of the games. So we view Precision as creating some validity to it. So we can show who really are these people in the crowds, who are the, you know, are we able to drive an activation where we know that if we're running a promotion for, say, Sonic Drive-In, how many people are actually going to Sonic the next day? So, you know, we've, as an agency, we found, you know, media mix modeling is something we're advancing, and this is just a whole nother way that we can prove the effectiveness of sponsorships.
So you said traditional media, all right? You know, although I heard a different definition for traditional media, I heard someone refer to online ads as being traditional media the other day, which that was interesting.
Getting there, I guess.
But yeah, which we are. I mean, when you look at the level of marketers we got. So you're thinking more of broadcast, more print media, and so forth. But
Yeah.
I mean, with more digital media today, I mean, I see a lot more bigger, you know, response on ROI. Are they squeezing you more for that? They're saying, look, I get the broadcast, I mean, but really look at what I'm getting over here online. Are they asking you for more of that?
They are asking for more, and they're also asking to build platforms that show direct results. You mentioned slapping a logo up. I don't think we have any clients that are in the outfield wall business anymore or want to sponsor the noise meter. It's all about how do I tie it to the brand, how do I tie it to the campaign I'm running, and where does it fit into the overall pathways of my message. Rarely would we ever say that sponsorship should be your advertising platform, but it should be a part of it because it drives, you know, brand loyalty, it drives advocacy. You know, it's probably not the best place as, you know, my biggest client is Verizon Wireless, where we're going to explain to you about the new data plan, but it is a place where we're going to enhance your experience at the game. You know, we always say it is something, Verizon's in a unique position as a client that some aren't, where, you know, their platform or their network creates a better experience for the fan. So, you know, if you're an auto dealer, and we have autos too, you know, going to a Dodger game in a Scion isn't exactly improving your experience, but if you're able to connect with fans on your wireless device, then it really is.
I want to come back to the enhance your experience thing in a minute because I think that's pretty important, but the ways in which to do it or how. Let me ask you, Scott, I mean, you come at it from more of the venue side. Can you share with us how this type of audience segmentation and analysis could best be leveraged, you know, say by your organization? How are you looking at doing that?
Sure. With, you know, the entertainment has changed, obviously. We compete not only with local venues next to us, but with, you know, mobile content and everything else. So we take, you know, a more progressive look at it. We're looking at fan lifestyles. We're engaging fans, how they want to be engaged, when they want to be engaged. It's all about context, and having the analytics behind it really drives, you know, what we do in terms of content, what type of entertainment at halftime, during timeouts. We do a lot of work on branding, all of the entertainment aspects that we put
Well,
out.
now, so like, how do you pull out? Like, I was at the Suns game not too long ago, and you guys had some limbo dancer. I mean, how would you pull out that was the thing that people want to see?
So, you know, we're really getting heavy into tracking online, you know, analytics during specific times of our event, and so matching those things back up after the fact, and then re-looking at, you know, what are we doing, when are we doing it, what are we getting the most impact from. We're constantly, you know, having that cycle of packaging, delivering, and then reanalyzing it to deliver what our fans want when they want it.
So Zahir, let me jump in with Zahir, and I'll come back to Stephanie because you got different kind of perspective. You got a foot in both sides, Steph. But Zahir, how about for you guys at the Phoenix Suns? Is it very similar to what you see, the same thing with the Scott seeing, and how you do this, or what?
Yeah, I mean, I would actually echo some of Scott's comments, and I think the exciting thing about Precision is that, you know, traditionally if you're in a papered ticket environment, and we're moving towards paperless tickets, but when tickets get resold or forwarded, you're not always sure exactly who's in the building, right? So you can profile based on who bought the ticket, but you're not always sure who's in the building, right? So I think Precision gives us another way to actually measure who's in the building. We can segment, you know, based on those sort of customer demographics, those customer profiles, and really target, you know, offerings, target, you know, marketing campaigns towards actually who's in the building, right?
So you're doing that primarily through the phone and usage, or?
Right. So I mean, I think you know, we're able to get that data through the phone usage, which gives us another layer of insight, which we traditionally wouldn't have. Again, when you move towards more of a paperless ticket, a membership kind of program, you're able to get some of that data, but this is really a nice bridge there.
You're going to really piss off the scalpers if you do this paperless ticket.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of benefits. It really helps us sort of get a sort of more control over our.
They'll find a way around it. Yeah. They'll be scalping phones, which will be cheaper actually than buying the ticket sometimes. What about, Stephanie, you're on both sides of that. So you have an interesting story. You're both a provider of actionable data-driven insights, and you're also amongst one of the biggest users, right? So tell us a little bit about your history with analytics and how did that come to pass? I'd be really interested in hearing that.
Sure. So I think, from a Verizon perspective, we are a huge sports sponsorship, as John knows, and we like to, what we've learned from Precision data is, or what we thought about was that there's just this general lack of accountability, and I know that that's not always true, but I think what Precision, when we looked at it, we're like, wow, this could really help us understand, right, a lot about these consumers. So not only in terms of planning who we're sponsoring with, but really activating that sponsorship and getting the most out of the dollars that we are spending. So if you think about, with the Phoenix Suns, what Zahir was saying is that basically 1 in 4 consumers that are in that, or fans that are in that stadium, and not knowing, am I really reaching who I'm supposed to be reaching? And then, that's one thing. But I think the other thing is really segmenting those audiences and seeing the differences between them so that you can know what products you want to promote or how you message to those audiences. For example, we did some case studies, or I like to say we eat our own dog food. Which is a horrible, horrible analogy, but we test everything that we do, right? We use that data to, determine where the heck to put our network, right? So where to put these towers, how to, change the frequencies on those towers so that we can provide the best network. And so when we looked at Precision, we continued to use this data internally. And so with the IndyCar sponsorship that we have, there's a series of races, and so we measured each of those different races. So Indy, 500, and we looked at, who's actually on, and I forget what you call that field, but the field, and then who's, sort of in the, camp area, whatever.
The infield.
The infield, yeah, really simple.
That's right.
Yeah. So we were able to look at the differences in who those audiences are and where they are, where they're coming from, where they're going, and it gives you just a much richer view of who those customers are. And so we looked at that, we looked at the Brickyard and looked at how that might be different, and then we looked at the Baltimore Grand Prix. And all of those were immensely different audiences. And what we were able to do is sort of create these micro segments, based on how we use our segmentation internally with the Precision data, and then change the messaging. So for example, we may promote Add a Tablet at the Indy 500, but we may do a 4G upgrader at the Brickyard. And so being able to really just maximize the value of our sponsorships and make those dollars work for us is really, I think, what's compelling about Precision.
How did it come about? Did it come about because you were eating your own dog food and you guys said, look, this is, we just want to do it for us, and now we want to go get everybody to pay for it? Or did it come about as a way of saying, oh, whoa, this is very valuable, and we could...
Yeah, I mean, we've been sitting on this data for a long time, and back when I was looking at starting mobile advertising, it's always been, as Jeff, you said, this is like the most personal device. You never hand this to somebody else; it's yours, and you do have to respect that relationship. But knowing how much data and how much relevancy you can bring to that interaction, whether it's content or advertising. We've always been, a big proponent of, wow, there's a lot of data here, and it took us a while to get people comfortable, mainly our executives, and obviously, the Hill and everyone else, around could we actually use this data? And so we spent a lot of time looking at the privacy issues and how could we care for our brand in such a way that we're respecting that relationship with the consumer and do it responsibly. And so, we really looked at transparency, choice, and control, which I talked about yesterday. But once you get over that, the privacy hurdle, there is a huge opportunity, and I think we saw it basically for our own internal use as well as, and more importantly, just to enable the industry to use it. Obviously we're going to continue to use it internally, and we find it extremely valuable. But the job of Precision and what our business is about is enabling others to use this data.
Well, as a marketer, I mean, I'd certainly be interested to know about the segmentation, but you're telling me the segmentation is a lot bigger than just, say, sports fans. It's
Absolutely.
Around, I mean, I can even know which areas of the venues. I could know by I would assume cross analyzing the data, you know, difference between male and female.
Yeah, so it definitely goes beyond sort of the, the typical demographics, right? You can really get into some really microsegmentation and create your own custom attributes. So by combining, the where you go before and after the game, or, what you're doing on your mobile device, are you, do you tend to, like one of the examples we use is, a venue could help understand, should I put Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks, right? So where do my typical audiences tend to over-index? Are they over-indexing on Starbucks? Yep, we're gonna put a Starbucks in there. So I mean, it's because of that, we can know the patterns and where people are going to provide that really just different dimension.
But outside the venue too, right?
Outside the venue.
Well, because I thought was interesting is I could figure out as a marketer, let's say I own a taco place or a food venue, I could actually see where 50% of my audience drives down this road going or coming, right? Over time, I could look at that. And then I could then target my coupons for those places and let those restaurants know ahead of time I'm gonna get slammed after they get done with the Pistons game. So that, which I think is pretty cool. How are you guys using that stuff?
I mean, we actually, we did a case study very similar to that. So with one of our,
this is the Suns again.
The Phoenix Suns,
okay, let's remind everybody.
Phoenix Suns are one of our QSR partners, Jack in the Box actually. So we have a promotion where if the Suns score more than 99 points, or we hold our opponents to less than 99 points, Jack in the Box gives out 2 coupons for sort of 2 free tacos the next day. So we've been doing this promotion for a while. It's been difficult to track on the back end. So even though they give out coupons, the individual stores aren't always rigorous about scanning the coupons. So it's, we want to be able to demonstrate the benefit and lift to our partners. So where this really comes in is that we're able to track the activity of the folks who are in the stadium on qualifying events, what they do the day afterwards. And what we found was a significant lift in-store activity in those Jack in the Box stores the day after. So on the order of 10% lift in-store activity. So I think it's a great example of how we're able to leverage this data to demonstrate benefit and ROI to our partners.
So John, you're representing the brands. Is that more valuable?
It is, because all of our brands, we know who our customers are. I speak in the we after 9 years on Verizon, but it is, they know who their customers are. So if we work with Toyota as well, and we're at, the Toyota Center in Houston, now, are you going to message a Tundra? Are you going to message a Camry? Are you going to message a Sequoia? How's it work? Things like that. And I think another thing about taking it outside of the games that's exciting for us is extending sponsorships. I think a lot of the times you can't just plan on the 4 hours that the Jets are playing on Sunday. Right. So, how do I interact with my the customers that overlap? So is it, do they live in FiOS markets? Can I get VOD content to them? Are they a demographic that's going to buy it's in the, in the market for a car?
And you're just saying this for Verizon, but you could take Mountain Dew, for example, and do a similar kind of product.
It is across all clients. I mean, are they visiting are people going to a Chase ATM before a game? What does that mean? Can I, do messaging there? It really is, it is endless, the possibilities.
So I would imagine that this is, when I buy a regular sponsorship, I once, I was doing the Olympics, and, I spent $40 million for the Olympics, and I went to a party and said, where's my t-shirt? Because I spent $40 million, so all I got was this fucking t-shirt. So it's like, beyond that, excuse me. But what
You're
more?
The first to curse.
That's when the sun started last night after dinner.
Exactly, right. So that's got to be more, I know that's more valuable. As a brand, having that kind of extension and showing me that, I can defend that. It's harder for me to defend just a general sponsorship. I mean, I used to fight these battles all the time in the C-suite, where someone would say, well, I think golf's better, I think this is better, and it was all very subjective. This is not subjective. This is very data-driven. I can say, look at this. That's more valuable. Can you charge? Are these guys going to end up charging more for it?
Less. We're going to finally be less of no.
I think it'll be more. It'll be more, but I don't think the brands mind paying more for that. By showing it's much more effective use.
Because then you're on the same plane as your general market media from cost per thousand and an efficiency standpoint.
On the
whereas
digital media.
Digital especially, yeah. Now it is a little bit of, it's a lot of guesswork. It's, everybody kind of thinks that hockey has higher household income fans, and I think that's probably true, but, now we have some, how are New York Islander fans? Because that's who I'm marketing to, that's who I'm paying.
I don't know, you got all those good retirees down in Phoenix, they're probably better, they pay a lot more. You said something, Scott, I thought was interesting, was around the cycles for decisions. So how do you take, I want to know what it's like sitting in your office and you get this stuff, who are you running around with to make these decisions, and how are you making these decisions? I think that's a cool thing to know.
Well, it's interesting when you bring every department to the table and have our analytics group present what they're seeing, from survey forums and all the customer feedback that we get watching things online. When you bring every department in to contribute to that process, then the execution can happen. It can be tweaked better, faster, more timely. So, learning things about our fans through, all the lifestyle things that they do. One of the biggest challenges, and everybody knows this, we don't know who's in our venue, right? Through this type of analytics and understanding their lifestyles outside of the venue, now we can bring their lifestyles into that entertainment engagement. Really re-engineering the entertainment experience. And to me, it's a gold mine when you start thinking about, making fans feel like we really understand how to entertain you.
Does this make you guys the two most powerful guys in the sports franchise now? I mean, I would argue that it was somebody else before, but I mean, seriously, when you look at the roles today, everybody's looking at marketing overall and saying, look, the role of the CMO is now changing, and the CIO, the Chief Technology Officer, has just as much a bigger role in a major brand. And now in your own organization, you guys got to start going like, ooh, I got a bigger seat at the table, let me help you out.
And it's going to get even more crazy. Imagine, and people have heard the concept of Internet of Things, right? When you think about 60 billion connected objects by 2020, having an IT infrastructure that can actively listen.
Do something.
Do something, listen. For example, having the gate tell the food tray, your patron has arrived. And having the food tray say, server, I'm not in the right location. Or server, the patron complained about it being cold, by listening. Those are all the things that, the Internet of Things will bring. IT's right in the middle of this.
See, at some point you'll know this section likes nachos more than this section I'm not joking about that. And that helps you with your inventory, and you're telling the guys to queue up more nachos over here and queue up more of this over there. That's part of it, right?
Yep, it's all a matter of, tuning your data collection and actionable items to immediately move levers.
To get away from sports for a second, I mentioned it last night, a few of us joined for dinner, and I'm working with a major hotel gaming casino chain in Vegas, and we help them show by automating more, and we put iPads into the restaurants, and we saw a 30% intake in the number of orders and faster, but more increase of 30% per table because we put the iPads in. Because people could sit there and order it faster than they could get it from that.
Yeah, if you leave them time to change their decision before the waitress comes over, the waiter comes over, you might lose that.
So are you guys looking at these kinds of things? We're talking about more actionable in terms of how do I use my sponsorship dollars, but are you looking at utilizing this kind of data for this as well?
Yeah, no, I think, when you talk about CMO, the CTO, I think, the lines are being blurred. At the Phoenix Suns, we've sort of structured internally where, analytics is sort of a shared resource across the entire business, because I think it really permeates everything that we do. If you're really trying to become a data-driven organization, that permeates all of our different business areas. So, corporate partnerships, our sales and marketing, everything. So I think you'll just see more and more integration. Sort of every decision that we make needs to be sort of backed up by rigorous data analysis, so I think it's just a real area of opportunity.
Yeah, see, I only thought marketing was the eye candy. Now it's the tech guys that are the sexy guys. Now.
And it's a challenge because you look at the
he's
venues.
stepping right into it. He's going, yeah.
This is a passionate topic for me because traditionally venues are not staffed like a traditional company in terms of IT resources. it's a huge challenge, and we're finding that, you know, marketing people are really leaning on IT more heavy than any time before.
Let me ask you,
Thank you, guys.
I got a question. I got a question from the audience already. So Sarah, where's Sarah? Is she in there? Or did she just tweet? There you go, Sarah. Thank you. How do you advertise in a venue where the audience could be different for every event multiple times a week? Oh, I got a couple of different ways for that. But how do you do that?
We have that environment, and, you know, digital signage is a huge play here, right? But also the personal screen. I mean, anytime they walk past things, we're looking at.
This is a digital sign.
Yes.
I should turn it around.
In fact, our content management tools are treating that as another device that we own in the venue, even though it's a customer-owned device. You know, those are the things that, you know, really differentiate. When you look at near-field, you know, communication and, you know, RFID, we put RFID chips in season ticket holder jackets this past year, just so that we could understand where they're going. You know,
now, did you let everybody know that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of creepy.
We gave them a discount every time they used it at the point of sale.
Okay.
So, I mean, these are things.
I mean, if I walk into the bathroom and it tells me to flush, I'm going to be a little upset.
Absolutely.
All right.
There's definitely a line.
Yeah. All right. So let me ask you about KPIs. Let's get a little bit serious in terms of. Let's talk about the KPIs that you consider the most important in your particular function. I'm going to go with Zahir first. So I ask you that question. Since you're MIT grad, let's go with you first.
Sure. You know, I think that's, thanks for setting me up. I think that, you know, from an analytics perspective, again, we work across multiple lines of business. So, you know, from when you think about corporate partnerships, we really want to be able to demonstrate the return on their investment, right? So that would be, you know, things like whether it's increased customer spend, whether it's sort of increased awareness or loyalty. So any data we can bring to bear, whether that's primary research, whether that's you know, some data like precision, anything we can bring to bear to measure sort of that return on investment, that's critical. From a ticket sales perspective, which is our other big business area, you know, I think anything we can do to be smarter about who our customers. So we have our own sort of a finite set of marketing resources, and we want to be able to target our customers most effectively to get the greatest return. So, you know, if we can understand more about what they like, sort of their preferences, their demographics, their psychographics, to really generate the greatest return on our marketing dollars, that's really the things we really track very closely.
Well, I like what you said too here is that it's different for different groups, obviously. So you can actually set mutual conditions of satisfaction for various either customers, and you've got lots of customers internally and externally, right?
Yeah, exactly right. And I think you know, one of the challenges we face is that you know, for the different business areas that we work with, there's sort of different data sources that we have to bring to bear. So what happens is sometimes you get silos of different types of information, and one of the challenges is really trying to bring that data together in a format where it can be really leveraged for multiple different uses. So that's one of the things we're really working on.
Scott, how about you on KPIs?
You know, KPIs are interesting. You know, we all know the revenue and attendance and the number of eyes on your sites and those things, but the ones that I think are going to become even more prevalent are the ones that are the actionable things, the ones that are more immediate. So, you know, and being able to statistically analyze those immediate, you know, facts about a patron and know that those indicators mean do this action. And
get this result.
And expect a higher propensity to have that result. You know, those are the things that we're concentrating on. We have, you know, people really working hard at bringing that information together, applying real, you know, statistical analytics against it, real time, and trying to understand what do we do with this patron now.
Who sets those for you?
It's, you know, we have an analytics department. You know, we have a group of people that this is their main function in our company.
Well, that's the doing of the work. Who sets the governance? Who says, you know, looks at like the 67-page dashboard or sits there and uses precision and says, you know, from this, I get this. I got to imagine it's different for your sales department. It's different for your marketing department. Probably, you know, I don't know what the other departments you have, but
yeah, I mean, they're all looking at it from their perspective of, you know, our environment. And when you look at ticket sales, especially, those are, you know, that's our bread and butter. So.
Yeah, but that's a no-brainer. I mean, I look at ticket sales and on, you know, year after year growth, and and per, you know, revenue taken from each attendee. I'm sure you look at those kind of things. But there's more than that, there's beyond that.
It's the lifestyle branding. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what you're really trying to get after. Who are these people? What are they doing in our facility? Why are they there? How can we get them to move from being a fan to being a fanatic, and being a voice for our brands?
Yeah, but what I'm trying to do is get to
I
this.
think it's the
I can't
marketing
believe that.
department,
I can't believe that the chief technology officer, or CIO, is the one that's setting the analytics.
None.
All right, okay.
We're making sure that the systems are there to support it.
Got it.
So we're not even involved really in that thought process in terms of, you know, what levers need to move and why.
But who sets that for you? Who?
So we have an analytics department doing that. They're working directly with our marketing.
Okay, there we go. That's what I'm trying to get to. So the marketing guys are saying, I'm looking at it from this perspective. I want to drive these things. Then what are the analytics behind it? Do you get me these? Is that what they're doing? And then you
Yeah.
guys sit down and work that out?
Yep, so we look at, you know, branding every part of our entertainment process. And so they're involved in creating content, they're involved in creating experiences, and then they're asking analytics, how did we do with this? And it's that cycle, and then they adjust and tweak it. And again, like moving those things as quickly as we can through that process to understand better, it changes based on who's, you know, in our venue.
How often does that change? How often do the KPIs change for you guys on a given time?
Well, I mean, I think it's...
Yeah, I mean, or better yet, how often is John and his clients calling you and saying, I want this stuff, I want this, I want this?
You know, I think that the top level goals stay the same, but I think as we get smarter about sort of what are the levers, what are the sort of the variables that we have control over and we can change and we can measure that'll produce the outcomes. I think that's when that cycle sort of continues. I mean, an example from the ticket sales side is obviously we want to maximize our renewals, right? Our season ticket holder member new renewals. We're starting to get smarter about predicting who's most at risk for not renewing. So one of the things we find is that attendance is a big predictor. If you're not able to attend, are you able to post your ticket for resale, and are you able to successfully resell it? So those are some of the things that we can measure and track on an ongoing basis. And if a member or a season ticket holder doesn't attend and doesn't post their ticket, we can take action there, right? So,
Well, and even better yet with precision and tools like this is that you have the ability to find that block of 100 tickets and who's using those.
Exactly.
Right? So now you've really got some actionable.
yeah, you can start to segment, absolutely.
Yeah. John, how about KPIs for you and your clients? What are they looking at?
It's usually centered around the activation results, and that's not necessarily activation on site, but activation in general. For most sponsorships, we try to have kind of a theme or a purpose to it. So, you know, we can get impressions anywhere, and we can get messages out pretty much anywhere, but you do sponsorships to invoke an action. So, be it wireless, our KPI is led by primarily app downloads. How many app downloads did we get for NFL Mobile this week? Or, you know, for Sonic, how many people, could we track the coupon, which, as you said before, it's not as easy as you would think it would be, because they're not, you know, they're a unique business being a drive-in. So it's the reason, or the KPI that always drives is the activation result.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's important because it's not just the spend that you have at the venue. Because when I was looking at it, I always used the effort of, look, if I spent $40 million on this particular thing, it was 2.5 times the money. Because I always had activation thereafter that I tied into promotions, or I had customer events with it. I had, you know, a whole host of other things, and primarily we were more B2B, but had some consumer side too, and that's a big factor, right?
Yeah, the old analogy, you bought the car, now you got to put gas in it, and you got to run. So that all gets factored in. It's an all-in number on our ROI analysis of, you know, basically every dollar we spent on this sponsorship, where do we get back from it?
You know, Stephanie, you're talking to a lot of brands now that are really looking at this, both on the sports side and the venues, but you're also talking to a lot of other big brands, because I've been with you at some of these meetings. You know, what do you think are the KPIs that are they the same as what these guys are talking about? Are they different? Or?
You know, yeah, I think it really is just about closing that loop, right? So understanding your consumer, engaging them, and then what did you want them to do, and did they do that, right? And you can use that data to come back, and, you know, there's different ways that, you know, I think the panelists before this panel, Claudia was saying, it's not about the clicks, right? I can give you clicks all day long. And, you know, it's really about, you know, did you get them to, you know, take that step that really impacts your business, right? So being able to measure, for example, we could measure a venue, but we can measure any point of interest. So it could be a retail location, it could be a billboard, and when you start to tie those together, you can start to understand how all of your marketing works for you. And really do that attribution of, we did this sponsorship, within a week, we saw an 8% lift in traffic to our stores, or we did this, out-of-home advertising on a billboard, and we're able to know that that person, was in and around your store, or went to your mobile site, or downloaded, Star NHL. There's a lot of different ways that we can help prove the ROI for these brands, and I think that's the bottom line. Really, did my dollar work for me?
It was interesting when we started talking to you guys about this, being able to index one type of company over the other, like a Home Depot compared to a Lowe's in our market, for fans that were at a rock concert compared to fans that were at a basketball game.
Which one's better?
We have to learn those things.
We can tell you.
But that's the
But no, but you can tell that, and that's who then you target for to go after the advertising spend, really? I mean, that's who you're going to get on the phone with John and say, John, go get me this, or deliver me this.
And it's things like that drive us to, we want to activate sponsorships that align with our strategies. So it's not just throw a sign up on the wall anymore, it's what brands and, products coming into our venue add to our, value to our brand.
This is a question, another Twitter question. Where's Logan? I want to make sure I give Logan recognition. Thank you, Logan, from Rochester. Yeah. All right, great. Go. They rock. Rochester rocks. What is the next step or objective for your organization to better realize your dreams for interaction? So okay, we got this, right? You drank the Kool-Aid. You got this. Now, what's the next step that you guys have got to look at? So here, what do you think is the next step for your organization to better realize your dreams for interaction? You want this, it's there, it's attainable, we know we can kind of do it, now what?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just scratching the surface. I think it's, so we've got some, specifically with precision data, we've got some good case studies in the area of corporate sponsorships. We're doing some interesting things on the ticket sales side as well. One of the things that we looked at in Phoenix in particular is, every year there's a lot of people come to Phoenix for spring training to attend the baseball games. So we've always sort of understood that there's more people in town. There probably may also come downtown and take in one of our Suns games. We haven't been able to really measure that. One of the things this allows us to do is actually track the overlap of people who actually attended a spring training game and then came downtown to attend a Suns game.
That was cool. I saw that data. That was very cool.
Yeah, so we're able to to leverage that insight to we can do some targeted promotions.
Because you guys wouldn't have looked at that. You guys would have written them off. As what I understood from your president, he was saying, look, we would have written that group off. They're baseball people. They're not really basketball people. And then boom, you saw, whoa, there's some overlap here.
Yeah, it was a real learning, a real insight. And some of it was counterintuitive, absolutely. And I think like I said, there's multiple applications there. One is the sort of the promotions. One is we try to optimize our ticket pricing, right? So if we know we can understand in advance sort of spikes in demand, we can price.
You can cut a deal with the baseball guys, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, just say, hey, look, half price if they do both or something along those lines. And by the way, here are some people that want to go to your games and then cross promote. Yeah. So based on that, you did so much more business of Verizon than charging you more for precision.
that's the next.
Hey, I got another question here on Twitter. Let me ask this question. This is from, let me make sure I know. Ron, where are you at? Hey, thanks, Ron. It doesn't say where you're from, Ron, but it says, I like this one. How does Verizon PMI provide info? With PMI is Precision Market Insights, which Stephanie hates using the abbreviation. So way to go, way to go. That's awesome.
I'm correcting our C-level, our C-suite as well, but it could be, you got it's Twitter. You got to
abbreviate. It's Twitter. Totally you got to knock it down. So how does Verizon provide info on customers that are not Verizon?
So we have really super smart data people that are able to extrapolate. Obviously, we're not going to just, from a competitive standpoint and from a privacy standpoint, we're not just going to hand over the numbers, right? And so what we do is we look at all sorts of data, both publicly and internally, and extrapolate out to a national view. So it is not just Verizon subscribers. That is the base.
But you guys also have the most subscribers, so it's
generally,
helps,
we are the largest carrier. And when you think about, I think we have almost 3 billion transactions per day that are coming through in terms of location fixes and calls and texts and stuff like that. And so it's just a massive amount of data that is, I think statistically incredible. And then you can take that data and then add stuff to it to kind of normalize and extrapolate out to that national view or a full view.
Hey, another Twitter question. The Twitterverse is taking over the panel, which is awesome. Like this. This is and damn good questions too. Analytics 360, where are you at? Yeah, there you go. Good plug for you. That's nothing wrong with that. So what are your feelings? I love this question. What are your feelings? And John, this is a good one for you too. So what are your feelings towards building connectivity and eyes up versus eyes down user experience, which I think is kind of important. I got to imagine you got people in your organization saying, bullshit, don't put stuff on this thing. I want them looking at here. That's the real experience. So how are you fighting that? What are you doing?
From a brand perspective, it's a little, if I take my Verizon hat off and I'm talking about
take it off.
PowerBar or somebody else, everybody's improving the connectivity in stadiums, and it's like, well, how does that make me sell more PowerBars? So that's the question I always would pose back to the venues is, yeah, I understand that we're improving the technology. I guess it's kind of like going from standard def to high def TV, if you want to look at it like that. So how do I have to change my commercial now? Do I have to film in HD? Am I changing my platforms? What are the platforms? And when it is personal, it is a different platform. People expect LED signage to sell them something, or they expect TV commercials to sell them something, but there is, they don't want a Twitter feed from the Phoenix Suns telling you what the Sonics, special is of the day. So it is kind of it's a whole different way you have to.
Well, you don't, I do.
Yeah. Most people don't. So it is, it's a whole different way of how are we going to message.
Unless it's more relevant to you,
and what
right?
platform, yeah, because when it's personal, you're selecting it.
Yeah.
You're choosing to be engaged. You're not, being.
So I think what you're saying, the brand's going to want whatever they can do to drive whatever they want to get done. Now, you guys have a different hat on. You're trying to drive the experience that's there in the stadium, the venue, wherever it's at. And at the same time, you want them to watch the match, the game, or in your case, music as well. And you want all those things, listen to music as well. But at the same time, you don't want them doing this, right? I think that's what people are saying. I would sit there and say that's bullshit. I would say I want them doing whatever they want to do. And as a marketer, I want to capture. But you remember Sam Kinison, the comedian? He used to have this thing that said, people starving in the desert. He said, you live in the frickin' desert. Food doesn't grow in the desert. Move to where the food is. And my belief is that's what you should be doing. You should be capturing behavior. You're not trying to change behavior.
Absolutely.
Is that the argument that's going on inside?
We compete with the people at home on their couch, right? So we have a bigger, better TV. It's the court, right? We still want to interact with them right here because this is where it's personal. And it's simple, but at the same time, trying to solve that magic of getting them to act and do things, they can be an advertiser right there. The collaboration of the marketing effort, the promotion, they're your biggest advocate. They're the voice of your fan speaking to other fans.
Here's another question, sports marketing prof for you, right here in the front row. Good job. It's like a good Catholic up in the front row. See, we will move towards customization. Will we move towards customization on a second screen, similar to Amazon homepage customization? Is that something Zahir, you guys are looking at? You guys are probably leading this, fairly well with the stuff you've been doing with Verizon. Are you guys looking at feeding up something like that?
If customization is the question, I think the answer is yes. Pretty much, regardless of the subject area. Going back to the previous question, not every customer is the same. Customers have different preferences, different, wants, different.
But you said if the question is that.
When the question of customization comes up, I think the answer is
Oh,
usually yes.
You don't think it's ready for that customization yet?
I do think it is. I was sort of speaking generally. I was
Okay.
trying to sort of
That's cool.
speak generally. Yes. So yes, I do think customization is sort of the direction we're headed in. As we learn more about our customers, we can tailor sort of our offerings to their desires, their preferences, and that's absolutely is the direction.
It's a big investment for the venue to make, and we're making that. Being able to provide Wi-Fi to every fan in the venue, being able to have streaming video to every fan in the venue.
How many people you guys got working on that? You're different than everybody else. I mean, how many people you got
Verizon's
working
there.
on?
We're good.
Yeah, well, but no, but I'm like, let's say on the customization of content.
So we have, there's 60 to 70 people in what I'll call our creative departments. And that's our, lifestyle groups, that's the promotion online. We have content editors.
So it's doing either that day, the day after, the week after, whatever it is.
Yep. So, but there takes a large investment of infrastructure to support these things. And quite honestly, companies that provide these services today aren't there yet with the technology. I mean, we have huge challenges to accommodate the density and...
Well, technology is one thing, and this infrastructure, the other thing is, again, getting back, there's data. You got to have the data. I mean, you feed me the wrong thing, and I got a bad experience, right? So when you talk about customization and so forth, I've always said as a chief marketing officer, crap in, crap out. So if you don't have the right stuff, then you got a problem.
Yep.
Let me ask you guys this question. This is, I think, I want you to finish this sentence for me, right? The biggest trend in sponsorship activation that you are focused on is. So the biggest trend in sponsorship activation that you're focused on is, John, let's start with you.
Drive to retail.
Drive to
Still
retail.
the biggest thing.
So,
Yeah.
or drive to whatever cash register there is.
Everybody
right?
has a different way. Some people are doing it through a mobile app, like you said before. That is my mobile platform. Some people have, they spend an exorbitant amount of money and time activating on site, but it's all about, at the end game, just like any marketing, is still driving to retail or cash register.
Scott, how about you? What's the biggest trend sponsorship activation that you're focused on right now?
It's no longer putting the sign up on the wall, it's engaging how our sponsors want us to engage those fans. It's, having the personal marketing campaign, bringing the segment from this big to one.
Mm-hmm. So, which I think is pretty cool because it's more from broadcast to narrowcast. And really, when we're really moving with this stuff with precision, to segments of one.
Exactly.
Really, that's really cool. That's a dream. So here, how about for you? What's the biggest sponsorship activation you're focused on right now?
From an analytics perspective, I'm activation agnostic, but I'm just very interested in better ways to measure the return on the activation. I know I sort of echo drive to retail as a big play, but I think just having better ways of measuring whatever the particular sponsor's activation is.
Stephanie?
So as Verizon, I think what's important to us is really creating powerful experiences for the consumer, whether they're in the venue or not. And I think that takes a lot of understanding and using precision to understand the different audience segments, and then really measuring that engagement and taking that data and those actions that they've taken and feeding it back into optimizing. I said this before, but just getting the most out of our dollars, right, and creating, incredibly loyal consumers.
Fantastic. This has been a great panel. I want to close with a little video and ask that the team in the back, if you could tee up a video a little bit on Precision Marketing Insights and roll that beautiful bean footage.